book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today with my quarterly TBR for the third quarter of the year. I love doing quarterly TBRs because I love making lists and I like making TBRs. It's a perfect combination. And even though I'm a big fan of the monthly TBR or the long-term TBR, I am also a big fan of somewhere in between. I also kind of like looking at this portion of the year, the portion that starts from July and then moves on to the end of September, especially because even though this is late 2023, it's not late 2023. So there are some goals that I would like to achieve before we press the panic button, you know? There are some new releases that will be coming out within this period. There are some challenges I would like to complete within the period, and there are also books that I have on my TBR that I want to try to complete by the end of September. We will see. And some of them relate back to some challenges that I've mentioned previously. Some of them were featured in my monthly TBR for July, and some of them I just want to read for fun. So I guess without further ado, let's get straight into this quarterly TBR where I pretty much give myself some goals because I just keep setting goals for some reason. So first of all, I would like to discuss my 12 Friends Recommend Me 12 Books challenge. As I'm filming this video, I'm actually ahead. I just completed, I mean, I don't know if I can say that I completed it because I felt like it was a skim read. I really struggled with the last book that I read within the challenge, but so far I have accomplished 8 of those challenges and I currently have 4 left. That leaves me with having to read Inuyasha Volume 1. This one was recommended by Camilo, and I know this is going to be the easiest one for me. I did not grow up with Inuyasha, and I've always wanted to read it, and I've always wanted to watch it because I've heard great things about it. I have just not done that. So I am very much looking forward to getting into that one, but I am saving that challenge for a day when I just know that I've got to press the panic button and I've got to complete the challenges. I'm definitely seeing Inuyasha being on this list as kind of like a reward for completing the other ones. But then I have Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This one's a chunker, and I believe it might be the first book in a series. With the last book that I just completed, I struggled with its very long audiobook as well, so I'm just hoping that the narration is okay. Like, honestly, I really did struggle with an audiobook I read recently, The Lies of Locke Lamora. Yeah, I really struggled with that one, okay? So that's the context. So I'm hoping that with Ashes of the Sun, I will not struggle in a similar way. I don't know if this one has a full cast or not, or if we just had the same narrator or dual narration, but I'm hoping, regardless of that, it's a story that grips me. Another book that was recommended to me for this challenge was The Goblin Emperor. This one was recommended by a very close friend, and I know nothing about it. I am literally going into this book with no expectations whatsoever. However, from what I have heard about it in terms of buzz, people seem to like it. This seems to be the favorite of some fantasy readers, so I'm very much curious about where The Goblin Emperor will take me. But honestly, I had no idea that this novel existed before it was recommended to me for this challenge. So exciting stuff. I hope that this one pleasantly surprises me because I've never heard about it, so I hope that this is just a hidden gem. And the final book that I need to complete in this 12 Friends Recommend Me 12 Books challenge by the end of the year is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't know how I'm gonna go with this one. I know that I'm either going to really love it or I'm going to really hate it, and I'm gonna think that it's really overhyped. And the reason why this book is on the list is because this just so happens to be the favorite book of one of my work colleagues. And honestly, I'm very much interested as to why this is one of her favorite novels ever. Whether or not it will teach me a lesson or whether or not it's just way too pretentious. I don't know. I've heard very mixed reviews about The Secret History. I've heard great things, but I've also heard that it's very overhyped. So I don't know what lens I should look at it from, but I'm going to manage my expectations. However, I kind of think that reading The Secret History might just be a fun experience because I'm either going to really enjoy it or I might just nitpick it. And moving on from that reading challenge, I do want to raise that there will be a new release within this quarter, and that is A Soul of Ash and Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And yes, I will be reading it within this quarter, so I'm putting it on this quarterly TBR. I honestly don't know whether I'm going to read it in July, August, or September, but what I do know is that I don't know if I'm ready for it. Like, I am very much excited to get more content within the Blood and Ash world. I do love these characters, and I've wanted a book, or at least chapters in Hawke's POV of the early events of the Blood and Ash series for quite some time. And while I'm so happy we're finally getting that, the War of Two Queens really burnt me out of the series. I am just hoping that this book will kind of redeem the series for me, even though this book is not Hawke's POV in later parts of the series. Apparently, it has been placed here for a reason. It's been placed in the book 5 section of the series for a reason. In a way, this definitely does feel like a prequel. It's just a prequel companion to the first book, but I really don't know if there is any extra information that would be useful for the future parts of the series. But what I do know is that this is a companion to the Blood and Ash series, and at this point, I just really care more about Sarah and Nyktos. As much as I like Poppy and Hawke, I am finding it really difficult to invest myself in future parts of the series because I did not like the War of Two Queens. I loved the first 3 books. I just really struggled with the War of Two Queens. However, I'm putting it on my quarterly TBR. I did not put it on my July TBR because I definitely struggle with the idea of reading it in July, but I'm gonna give this one time. I'm gonna see how I go. I have been looking forward to this, but as we get closer to the release of A Soul of Ash and Blood, I am just even more nervous and intimidated. I don't know, I'm just very much more excited for A Fire in the Flesh, which comes out in October, so I mean, that's a birthday gift for me. I really hope that I at least get something out of A Soul of Ash and Blood, and that I do enjoy it, regardless of me not really being keen on continuing on with the Blood and Ash series at the moment. And now moving on to the books that I physically own. Kicking it off with Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I have been nervous about this book because it is a new Ali Hazelwood novel, and I desperately want to love it. So if you guys don't know, I really struggled with Love on the Brain, and that is because elements of Love on the Brain felt pretty identical to some of the Steminist novellas that I ended up reading, except longer and kind of a little bit more drawn out and a little bit more annoying. I struggled with Love on the Brain, and Love on the Brain ended up being on my most disappointing reads list of 2022 because it just did not feel new and it did not feel special. I really struggled to connect with the protagonist and the love interest, and I got so annoyed whenever Marie Curie was mentioned. Literally, she was mentioned in every chapter or every second chapter, and I was just so tired of that book doing a WWJD except a WWMCD thing. However, with Love Theoretically, I am hearing from romance readers who did read advanced reader copies that this is Ali Hazelwood's best work and it's a breath of fresh air. So I'm hoping that this book will be that for me because I really struggle with the idea of like actually reading this. I pre-ordered it and I love the cover. I think that this is definitely the best cover that I've seen for an Ali Hazelwood novel. I really love how romantic it is. However, this roundel is really annoying me. I'm gonna give it a try. Now, I initially was going to give up on Ali Hazelwood's works. However, then Ali Hazelwood mentioned Love on the Brain and The Love Hypothesis were actually kind of written side by side. They were first written before The Love Hypothesis was submitted to a publisher, and Love on the Brain happened to be a backup book. So it kind of makes sense why I felt like Love on the Brain wasn't a step of progression, but I'm hoping that Love Theoretically will be a step of progression from Ali Hazelwood. And within Q3, I would like to complete the Madison Kate series by Tate James. The Madison Kate series is a quartet where I've only read the first 2 books so far. I've read 1 book per month, and I wanted to read this in the lead up to Babe in the hopes that my set could be signed by Tate James, but by the time I got to Tate James's queue, they were advising that only 1 book per person needed to be signed. So I got Tate to sign my 7th Circle Mystic edition instead. I kind of like that I have these editions now because apparently these editions are out of print because the series has been picked up by a publisher. That's kind of exciting. I'm never usually one for non-discreet covers. However, I do kind of like how the photo shoots were done for the series. The first book I found to be okay. However, I really enjoyed the second book, and I'm very much looking forward to see how this series will progress and continue. This is definitely just a very fun time. It's a Why Choose romance series, but it definitely has its serious moments to it. It's romantic suspense. I'm enjoying it, and I don't expect it to be like my favorite series ever, but it could surprise me. And the next book series I would like to complete within the quarter, funnily enough, I have very similar feelings about. In terms of predictions, I don't know whether this series is going to be one of my favorites, but I am pretty much going into it for a good time. That, my friends, is the Flirting with Monsters series by Eva Chase. I actually put this series on my This TBR will self-destruct video. This is a 4-book series. The books aren't too long. I believe they're just like 300 pages each, and it's a Why Choose Paranormal series. The reason why I don't think that this is going to be a favorite is because I did read the Their Dark Valkyrie series by Eva Chase, and as much as I liked the premise of it, it was a Why Choose series that had Norse gods as the love interest. I just found that one to be okay. It had steam, but it didn't really have a satisfactory conclusion to its plot. It was interesting to start off with. I loved the first 2 books, but as the series continued on, it were just quick reads and that was it. It didn't really feel special to me, so I'm actually hoping that the Flirting with Monsters series might just surprise me, but I'm also going into the series managing my expectations. I think that is why I've put them off for quite some time, because I actually purchased the Flirting with Monsters series before I purchased the Their Dark Valkyrie series, but I ended up devouring the Their Dark Valkyrie series first, and it kind of turned me off from reading another book series by Eva Chase. So I'm gonna see how I go with this one. If I really enjoy my time reading this, I might just read more by Eva Chase, because I usually get swept away by her covers. Like, I'm really liking her new book covers, and I just want to try them all. However, I need to give her writing another chance by reading another series by her, and I think the best way to do that is by reading the series that I already own and that I've put on a self-destructing TBR. So I'm hoping to accomplish this within the quarter. And speaking of paranormal romance, I definitely want to get to the Zodiac Wolves series within this quarter. I included this on my July TBR, I believe, and I am very much looking forward to reading this, because if you guys don't know, the Arcane Society just did special editions for this series, and I'm so looking forward to receiving my special editions. But I also recently met Elizabeth Briggs. She signed this with a purple Sharpie, and it's so cute. I'm honestly just so excited to read the series after meeting Elizabeth Briggs. I have heard really good things about the Zodiac Wolves. I've actually started it as I'm filming this video right now, and I have to say this. It feels like YA, however, it was written for a new adult audience. So I honestly don't know how I'm going to feel about the series as I continue on with it. However, I'm going to manage my expectations in the way that I would for a Jennifer L. Armentrout series. Like, I love reading Jennifer L. Armentrout's series for a really good time, and at times I do expect the Blood and Ash series and the Flesh and Fire series to feel like a young adult series. So I'm gonna go into this series with that expectation, but we will see how I go. I've heard that the series is a great time, so I hope that it will be a great time for me. I've been getting a lot into fantasy as of recently, and that's a good thing because I love romantasy specifically. However, sometimes I love immersing myself in paranormal stories, so I'm really hoping that I enjoy this wolf shifter romance series. And speaking of authors who I just met, I would like to read the Devil's Night series this quarter. I'm gonna try, okay? I'm going to at least start the series and see where I'm gonna go from there. It's a very chunky series, I get that. So I don't know if it's completely doable, but I would at least like to start. And all these books are signed, or at least the last 2 books have book plates in them, which is really cool. Penelope Douglas pleasantly surprised me with Punk 57, and as soon as I read Punk 57, I knew that I needed to purchase more books by Penelope Douglas, because I just, for some reason, assumed they would be like a new favorite author for me. I noticed that Punk 57 made me so excited to read. Even though there are elements about the book that are really problematic, it's technically somewhat of a bully romance. It's just that Punk 57 was essentially a very adrenaline-inducing read for a very low-stakes novel, because it was a contemporary novel. So I'm kind of hoping that I'm going to experience some sort of adrenaline through reading this series. I don't know anything about the Devil's Night series, if I'm going to be honest. So if you guys want to warn me about like any triggers, I totally welcome those comments. I will be looking at the trigger warnings before going into the series, don't you worry. But if you guys have any thoughts that you would like to leave me with before I try the series out, then feel free to. I have no idea what I'm signing myself up for. I just wanted to read another book series by Penelope Douglas. I didn't just purchase this book series after reading Punk 57, I also purchased Birthday Girl, and as much as I do want to read Birthday Girl, I kind of just want to read this series, or prioritize this series at least. But I mean, we will see. Maybe I might just read Birthday Girl first. And speaking of adrenaline-inducing reads, I have my problematic queen here. Yeah, so I'm considering finally getting to Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. I have heard some outrageous things about this book so far. I'm not gonna lie, the controversy makes me want to read it more. I'm sorry. Like, as much as I know that H.D. Carlton's books are somewhat problematic and stuff, I can't help myself. I really just want to be in on it. This right here is actually the Babe 2023 exclusive edition that was printed specially for the convention by Mystic, and I'm really happy I have it. It is a very pretty edition. I think it's my favorite edition. What I find find very fascinating. So I was actually looking at the signature in here, but when I went to the dedication, it says, "To baby shark, step aside, daddy shark is here now." I have been trying to work out why everyone associates this book with daddy shark, and now I know why. It's because of that dedication, but you know, maybe, just maybe, daddy shark will be mentioned in this book as well. I know about the outrageous scene, okay? Myself and a friend discussed it. I asked them if there was anything I should be warned about going into this book, and then they had mentioned that scene. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I've seen fan art of that. That is outrageous, but I'm gonna read. And look, I have talked about this previously on my channel. I will mention it again. With the cat and mouse duet and with Satan's Affair, with H.G. Carlton's books so far, I personally can't morally recommend them. The books that I've read by H.G. Carlton, I've refused to rate them anywhere because as much as I am entertained by them, I'm also equally disgusted by them. I honestly cannot decide a rating for myself, but I also want to strongly encourage people to avoid them. I'm reading these to have a personal good time. I'm not recommending these on my channel. I'm hoping that I will have a good time with Does It Hurt. It just seems like it's going to be a very problematic but very adrenaline-inducing read. And last but certainly not least, let's go back to my roots. Let's talk about some romantasy. I want to accomplish this series this year. I want to read the War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. I put this trilogy on my series TBR for the year, and I also put this trilogy on my 5-star predictions list for the year. I am really hoping that this trilogy will be amazing because I am really struggling with my 5-star predictions so far. Some of my 5-star predictions have not turned out to be 5 stars, and that is a little bit disappointing, but I'm really hoping that this series will come through and will just surprise me in the best way possible. I definitely want to read this in the lead up to the end of the year because I need more favorites on my favorites list. I have enjoyed some of the books that I've read this year, but I'm waiting for my next bargainer. Like, I love the Bargainer trilogy, and the Bargainer trilogy happened to be my favorite book series of 2022, but no book series that I've read this year has reached that level yet. We will see how I go with this series, and we will see how I go with the other romantasy series that I read this year. One thing's for sure, the romantasy series that I would like to spotlight within this quarter would be this series, and I'm putting this in a quarterly TBR rather than a monthly TBR because these books are so chunky. Like, look at that. Look how thick these boys are. The first book alone is 507 pages. I believe that the last book in the series is like 700 pages, so yeah, that's a lot. Fingers crossed I get to this series by the end of the year. I'm really hoping that this series won't become another Savage Lands for me. When it comes to the Savage Lands series by Stacey Marie Brown, I keep on telling everyone that I'm gonna read that series. I have not. And I'm wondering if this series is going to be one of those cases where I keep on putting it on TBRs and I just don't do anything about it. So I'm hoping that in this case, it will not be another Savage Lands. But speaking of Savage Lands, I would also like to try to put Savage Lands on. No, I'm not gonna put it on another TBR because I'm just gonna disappoint myself and not read it. But maybe I might though. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the red heart emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social media. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/GSwizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.